The Bible is not just beautiful, it speaks directly to situations we might be living in our lives today. Psalms 23 is one of those passages, and most people don't realize until everything in life has already started to fall apart. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll never read "The Lord is my shepherd" the same way again. There's a reason Psalm 23 shows up at funerals, at hospital bedsides, in prayer circles when someone's life is falling apart. It's not because it's pretty, it's because it works. Because Psalm 23 isn't poetry written from a palace balcony during a peaceful afternoon. It's a survival manual written by someone who knew what it felt like to run for his life. David, the man who wrote this, wasn't a safe, comfortable king when he penned these words. He was a fugitive, a warrior, a man who spent years sleeping in caves while his own king tried to murder him. So when David opens with "The Lord is my shepherd," he's not speaking theoretically, he's speaking from the trenches. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed, exhausted, betrayed, or terrified of what's coming next, this psalm wasn't just written for David, it was written for you. Let's break down why this passage has survived 3,000 years and why it still hits harder than almost anything else in Scripture. David doesn't say God is a shepherd. He says my shepherd. That's personal, that's intimate, that's covenant language. And when he adds "I shall not want," he's not saying he'll never have desires or needs. He's declaring that when God leads him, he will never lack what he truly needs. Not money, not status, not comfort, but provision, direction, peace, strength, and most importantly, presence. Because here's what Psalm 23 teaches that most believers forget. God doesn't just provide blessings, he provides himself. And when you have him, you have enough. That one sentence alone, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," is a full theology. It's trust wrapped in confidence, wrapped in experience. Because David had already survived impossible situations. He'd already been anointed king while still a teenager with no army. He'd already killed a giant when trained soldiers were too terrified to move. He'd already been hunted through deserts and still came out alive. So when David says, "I shall not want," he's not guessing, he's remembering. Notice what David says next. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Not suggests, not invites, makes. Because sheep don't naturally rest when they're scared. They stay tense, alert, restless, just like us. Some of you reading this are physically exhausted but mentally can't shut off. Your body is tired, but your brain keeps running worst-case scenarios on repeat. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my family falls apart? What if I fail? But Psalm 23 is reminding you that God doesn't just care about your destination, he cares about your condition. And sometimes God will interrupt your chaos just to restore your soul. Because if you keep running without rest, you'll eventually collapse. And God doesn't want you collapsed, he wants you recovered. Then David says, he leads me beside the still waters. Still waters represent peace, but not fake peace, not temporary peace, not the kind you get when everything finally goes your way. This is the peace that comes from being guided, the kind of peace that exists even when life is loud because God is calm. And here's what makes this powerful. Sheep are afraid of rushing water. Fast currents frighten them, but still waters, they can drink safely there. That means God doesn't lead you into panic. He doesn't lead you into confusion. He leads you into clarity. And if your life feels like rushing water right now, spinning out of control, too fast to process, Psalm 23 is a reminder that God can bring you to stillness again. Even if your situation hasn't changed, he can change what's happening inside you. This is one of the most overlooked lines in the psalm. He restores my soul. Because many people ask God for strength, but never ask for restoration. And there's a difference. Strength is the ability to keep going.
Restoration is healing what was damaged along the way. Some of you don't just need energy, you need your soul repaired, because life has taken pieces from you. Betrayal has taken pieces, fear has taken pieces, grief has taken pieces, disappointment has carved out parts of who you used to be. But Psalm 23 says, God is not only a leader, He's a restorer. God doesn't just push you forward, He rebuilds you. Then David says, He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. This line is crucial because it means God doesn't lead you randomly. God has paths, He has direction, He has order. Even when you feel lost, even when you feel confused, even when you feel like you've made too many wrong turns to ever get back on track, God still has a path for you. And notice the phrase, for His name's sake. That means God's guidance isn't based on your perfection. It's based on His faithfulness. Which means even when you're weak, inconsistent, or wandering, God is still committed to leading you. Now comes the most famous verse. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Notice what David doesn't say. He doesn't say, if I walk through the valley. He says, though I walk through. Meaning the valley is guaranteed. Every believer will face valleys. Seasons where it feels dark, where God feels silent, where you're surrounded by shadows and nothing makes sense. But here's the key that changes everything. David calls it the shadow of death. A shadow can scare you, but a shadow can't kill you. It only looks powerful because of the light behind it. And what David is teaching us is this: even when death feels close, God is closer. Then comes the line that holds the entire psalm together. For you are with me. That is the center of Psalm 23. Not the blessings, not the green pastures, not the still waters. The center is this: God is with you. And if God is with you, you can survive anything. Then David adds, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod was used to fight off predators. The staff was used to guide wandering sheep. That means God doesn't just protect you from what's attacking you, He also corrects you when you're drifting. And both are love. Sometimes the comfort isn't that God removes the enemy. Sometimes the comfort is knowing God won't let the enemy win. Then David shifts into what might be the most powerful image in the entire psalm. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. This line is pure power because it means God doesn't always deliver you by removing the opposition. Sometimes God delivers you by blessing you in front of what tried to destroy you. It's God saying, they will watch you eat. They will watch you recover. They will watch you rise. They will watch you be restored. Some of you have been attacked spiritually, mocked, doubted, rejected, but God is preparing a table, not in secret, in the presence of those who didn't believe in you.
Then David says, you anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Oil in Scripture represents healing, favor, consecration. It represents being chosen. And when David says, my cup runs over, he's describing abundance. Not necessarily money, but abundance in peace, strength, grace, joy. This is what God does. He doesn't just give barely enough, He gives overflow. Then David ends with one of the strongest conclusions in all of Scripture. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. David doesn't say maybe, he says surely, meaning he's certain, confident. Not because life is perfect, but because God is faithful. And he says goodness and mercy will follow him. That means even when you mess up, Mercy is chasing you. Even when you take wrong turns, goodness is still following. God's grace is not fragile, it pursues. And then the final line, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That means the story doesn't end in the valley, the story ends in God's presence. And that is the power of Psalm 23. It's not a promise that you'll never face darkness. It's a promise that darkness will never face you alone. So, if you're in a valley right now, hold on. If you're anxious, breathe. If you're tired, rest. If you feel surrounded, remember the shepherd. Because the same God who led David is still leading you. And Psalm 23 is proof that even when life is uncertain, God is not. The shepherd is still in control, and the sheep will make it home. If this psalm spoke to you today, don't ignore it. God often works in mysterious ways, and no matter what you're going through, you are never alone. Want more videos like this? Subscribe and stay connected, because we're building a community that walks in faith, not fear. God bless you.